In this game, you will not only find unlimited beauty, but you will also find the start of a young prodigy's amazing career. This game was played by Eero Einar Book, who was a little kid at the time in 1924 from Finland. And so he's 14 years old playing this game in the youth tournament of Finland. In this position, the original starting position, he plays e4 and his opponent opens with e5. Knight c3. By the way, please don't show this to Levy. This is a Vienna game and he might get too excited if one of you shows this to him. So let's keep this game between us, okay? So knight c3 was played, which is typical of Vienna, and then knight f6. And so here, Mr. Book, or young Mr. Book, plays bishop c4, preparing this f4 Vienna gambit, I presume. And here his opponent took on e4, a knight sacrifice, which is not really a huge sacrifice because the idea is you want to deflect the knight off of d5 and attract it to the e4 square so that after knight takes e4 there's this d5 move, a fork, regaining this piece. Okay. Well, Mr. Book does not take this knight and instead plays queen h5. An interesting move that threatens this nice checkmate in 1 and also threatens to take this pawn on e5 with check. Okay. The best move here for black is to go knight d6 to cover f7 and to attack the bishop on c4. But the black pieces play something that has never been played after and was never played before on move 4. And this is ironic because we've only played 7 book moves in this entire game, and the white pieces, his last name is literally Book. So I find that funny. Fate loves irony. I don't know. Okay, so knight g5 was played, and this is a mistake. Why? Because the knight is very vulnerable. Even though black is defending f7, this knight can be easily attacked and chased through the board. And that's exactly what white does on their next move. Not h4, which I showed on the board, but actually d4 was played here. A great move that's very, very aggressive, attacking this pawn, and also surreptitiously attacking this knight. Discovered attack, right? And so, well, black have to save their knight, so they play knight e6. Knight e6 is okay. It's really an unnatural place for this knight, so okay. And to that, Book just pressured this knight here because he knows that a dangling knight is pretty good in the center, especially at the beginning of the game. The chances of this knight being trapped are very, very high and go up significantly as the knight moves. So d5 was played, attacking this knight. So okay, his opponent just rebuttals with the g6, attacking the queen on h5. And you know the queen has got to move, except this young 14-year-old thinks way outside the box and goes with this astounding, yet questionable, but amazing d takes e6. A brilliant move, sacrificing his queen after only 7 moves played on the board. His opponent must have been astounded himself. How do you even handle the pressure of this youth tournament when your opponent, a young superstar, a prodigy rising through the ranks, has just sacrificed their most valuable piece in the most minute number of moves? It's tough. So his opponent ruthlessly takes this queen and moves on. But here, it is completely winning for the white pieces if you take this queen on h5. Here, Book takes on f7, a really nice in-between move that checks the king and forces the king up, which is really nice because an exposed king, a knight, a pawn, and a few attacking pieces can just be enough to be worth a queen or more. And that's exactly what follows up here. Bishop g5, exploiting this super open king and this weak queen, and the lack of pawn soldiers to defend here for an amazing skewer on this king and queen, winning a full queen and forcing the king even more up the board. This is a forced move. And if he wants, he can just cash in his chips now, take the queen, and be up a full piece. But this is where a good player and a future grandmaster, honorary grandmaster, appears. He goes instead for long castles check on the king. As if move 7 was not embarrassing enough, you gotta check your opponent's king while their queen is hanging. If I was a 13 or 14-year-old kid in this youth tournament, I am crying at the board and asking them to get my mom to come pick me up. I'm sorry. How you dealing with this? You don't. You take it inside, and that's the kind of the beauty of chess. Because somebody's very happy, but you know that at the other end of the board, the guy's crying, bruv. Inside dying and outside crying. So this is check on the king, and again, it's so beautiful because you realize that the bishops work so well to force this king either to the side of the board or up the board. There's nothing to cover. It's like the black pieces are completely undone in the space of 10 moves. And so if the king goes to c6, white has no more fuel, and I noted for myself that book just needs to take this queen and it's completely over. I mean, you're just a piece up and you're threatening bishop f6, trapping another rook. It's done. Like, you're just done, take a break from chess, you know. But, okay, his opponent, I think his opponent gave up at this point mentally because he goes king c5. I don't want to laugh. And I wish I knew Hiidenheimo, but I don't. And king c5 is kind of a move that you play when you're giving up or you're just trying to... You're trying your last effort here, because if takes, okay, black can argue that they take the bishop and it's equal here. So that's why king c5 is played. But bringing your king up the board, we all know, makes your king even more fragile and vulnerable and just increases the chances of your king being checkmated. And Mr. Book also does not take the queen here. He's allergic to taking queens. He only takes mates. It's like when you show up to a restaurant and they're like, we don't take card, only cash. And like, you've already eaten your meal. I was like, how do you not take card? Like I don't have $50 right now. How do you take cash? You're a restaurant, you know? Personal thing. Anyways, personal anecdote. King has options: b4, b6, c6, and c4. If the king goes to b6, this king is let off the hook actually, because after check, king here. Oh, actually, this is mate. Wait, so where does the king go? a6. And the king is actually not bad. Bishop just takes, and we forget about the whole thing. Black can resign with some honor. If the king goes to c6, it's actually made in 6 moves, which is actually crazy. White has bishop b5 check, forcing the king to b6, knight a4 check, forcing the king to a5. I mean, this is crazy, right? Bishop d2, winding back bishop to d2. Bishop b4, forced on the board to block. Bishop takes, luring the king to b4, and then a3 check, king a5, b4. You know in chess how usually you do a3 and b4 as the white pieces to like fend off a bishop? You're actually checkmating a king here, which I find very nice. So king c6 is not an option, and makes this interesting because his opponent saw this and played one of these 2 moves. Okay, let's look at the move he didn't play. If you go to b4, here it's just made in 3. a3 check forces king takes bishop, and now we have b3 check forces king takes c3, and bishop d2, the bishop coming back with checkmate. Very classy, very beautiful. Okay, so his opponent took on c4, the most interesting of them. And so in this position, Book finds a forced mate in 5. And I have to admit this officially, he does not take the queen. I'm proud of him. Okay, so king c4, and here b3 was played. And this is a really odd attacking move, because it's counterintuitive. Here b3 gives the knight and also like forces the king to the b4 square. And the reason is, if the king takes on c3, you have bishop d2 checkmate. Very awesome checkmate. So it kind of forces this king to b4, and that b3 move now has taken up 2 valuable squares of this king, and helps the white pieces to make this next checkmate happen. Rook b5 was played next, forcing the king to one of 2 squares. If you go to c3, I have classy development move. Knight e2. Oh wait, it's checkmate? Checkmate. Crazy. The knight taking up the open square this king was going to leap to, and checkmating the king. Fascinating. So the king goes to a3. Okay. Now he finds knight b1 because he sees that these two pieces have done their job. The king is officially trapped in a prison cell. So you just need to bring the king deeper in. Knight b1 check, king takes a2, rook a5 check, forcing bishop a3, and then rook takes a3 checkmate. This was a forced checkmate, and this game lasted 16 moves. And the best part is, the queen is still hanging. He didn't take a queen as a 14-year-old. That's kind of impressive. I would have taken the queen by now. He didn't take the queen for how many moves? For like 6 moves. He played 6 checking moves and just didn't take the queen. Insane. So that's the game of the day. Eero Einar book. He became 5-time Finnish champion, which is really cool. And he played at multiple Olympiads. He had a great chess career. He even is famous for a huge, devastating loss against Alexander Alechin. If you guys want that game, 1,000 likes on this video, and I'll show it to you. It's really a crazy game, but it has to be 1,000 likes on this video. Okay, I'll leave you at that. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a marvelous day.